Gotta be making pretty dang good money to be able to do that. But yeah, that was a $3 million deferral.
Her body's gold like September. She burns through the night like an ember. And all those things we try forgetting, I remember. But we say we all fine, we all fine. Sunny day dreams.
Good morning, happy Friday. So second half of the day is going to be leadership meeting time. We'll get into that a little bit later on what we do with that. First half of the day, it's all about tax returns. We got the personal extension deadline coming up soon. And so it's gonna be a morning like when my brain's fresh, do the real brain work, and so we've got some returns ready to review. So that'll be on my desk this morning. I'm standing today, get the blood pumping. So I'm gonna go get my car washed, try to do that every Friday afternoon if possible around lunchtime, and then we're gonna do some weekly planning looking ahead. Personally, I find when I plan the week out in advance, I have a lot more effective week. So that's gonna be on the agenda for today. So looking forward to showing you how that works. Yep. Okay. It's not really jacket weather here. Let me get that out of the way. So right now we're heading to go get the car washed. Try to get it washed about once a week. It's very exciting stuff. But you know, kind of in the topic we talked a little bit earlier about weekly routines and morning routines, and one thing that's really important for productivity is planning out your following week before the week starts. And when that happens, when I do that, I don't always do it, but most of the time when I do, I have a really killer week when my week's already planned out on paper. So I'm gonna go get the car wash, get it nice and clean and fresh, go grab some lunch and plan out next week's content, next week's meetings, and where we can squeeze in productivity versus my own personal events, like, you know, planning out my workouts. When am I going to get family time? Blocking out the personal events, almost more important than the business events, because those can get squeezed by all the stuff that seems urgent from other people. So get those on paper first.
It goes down 75 degrees in a dope sound. All you need to live fine, a little sunshine cause she needed a dose of rainfall in the evening.
One thing that when I was talking with a client recently, and we were talking about what they pay for out of their business account versus their personal account, and they know that you're supposed to take auto expenses and mileage as deduction, but all of their auto insurance was still on their personal account, and then things like car washes, they were still paying for out of the personal account. So one thing that's a good exercise to do is to audit your personal bank account and monthly expenses. This is one of the reasons it's good to have a personal budget, and see what's being run through your personal account every month that should be switched over to your business account. And we actually have some clients they'll hire us to do the books for a few months for their personal books, and then we'll be able to detect, okay, these $700 a month of expenses should be transferred over your business. Now that's $8,000 a year that we've picked up as a deduction that wouldn't have otherwise been picked up. So definitely audit your personal account. What's up?
Welcome to Prime Time. How you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. All right, so we're all set. Would you like a dashboard wipe today?
Sure, why not?
There you go.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Prime Shine. It's a good deal. $20 a month, unlimited car washes. You got to dry it yourself, but no big deal.
Cast down and we feel them. Say here's to the nights we steal them. And I'll be running.
Get a quick email while I'm waiting in the car.
I slow down unless I get out. And if we fall, let's be strong now.
Chipotle. Get a burrito bowl. Double chicken. Chipotle for a good business meal. Plan out our week for the content. What we're going to talk about next week. Bring some good value to all of you guys watching. And eat some delicious, tasty food. Delicious and tasty. All right, so one thing Andy and I were just talking about in the car actually is on the topic of personal finance is being old. You want to live within your means, but then there's the other extreme, which is, you know, rewashing your paper cups from the restaurant just to reuse them, even though you've got plenty of money in the bank. And it's kind of our philosophy that you can get rich by being cheap, but then you're still cheap. So it's easier just to make more money, keep your expenses the same. But don't spend more on taxes than you need to. Time for some Chipotle. Poll coming up next post. Right here.
Same city I've been used to.
But as far as like what I look at is engagement rate, so basically actual like watched and clicked and all that, and I look for that. They say anything above 1% is really good.
Okay.
And we were like 4%.
Oh, that's good.
So whereas before I was still getting good numbers. I was probably 1 to 2%. So that was you know, double or triple better.
You have it set to your notifications too?
Yeah.
On there?
You get a haircut? No. Friday afternoon, excited to get some family time in this weekend. Probably. So last weekend I told my daughter we were going to take her for a walk, and then we didn't. So she's been talking all week, Daddy, we forgot to walk. So tomorrow morning, going to take a brisk morning air fall walk. That'll be nice. And then just excited to finish the week strong. So we got our weekly leadership team meeting this week, this afternoon. What we do during the leadership team meeting is it's a weekly meeting where we start off by announcing, you know, good news that happened in the business in the last week, just to kind of transition from working in the business to working on the business. And then we recap our quarterly rocks, which are the main focuses that we're working on this quarter. And our quarterly rocks for measure results for this quarter are making sure we're getting our receivables in, making sure that we're hitting our number of tax return targets. Then we've got a back work target, so getting in new business and doing a bunch of, you know, multiple years of bookkeeping for people that haven't done their books for a couple years. And then lastly is a new sales target. So those are our 4 kind of rocks for this current quarter. And then we go into, we have a firm issues spreadsheet. So anytime there's like a problem or something we want to improve about the firm, the leadership team has access to a Google Drive spreadsheet, and we'll just throw it up on that spreadsheet. And then we review what we think are the top 3 or 4 most important things in order that we want to discuss. And we'll take an hour to just hash out as many of those issues as we can get to in an hour. And it's a really good way of just making sure that you're discussing the important things that the firm needs, but not doing it in an ad hoc way where, you know, I'll just walk down to my dad's office or to Leslie's office at random, and then all of a sudden we're wasting 20 minutes. Instead, we know that we're going to have this hour to set aside and discuss them and hash them all out. So that's really valuable. And then we have a series of to-dos that we need to go over and get done by the next meeting. So that makes sure that everyone's accountable. and we list who, there's always one person that's accountable to each to-do, because if two people are accountable to something, then no one is. And then lastly, we rate the meeting on a 1 to 10 on how good we thought the meeting was. And that just kind of gives us a pattern. We try to be averaging 8 or higher as far as the effectiveness of the meetings each time. And if we get too low for too long in a row, we need to fix it and change it up. So that's our weekly leadership team meeting agenda. And then we'll wrap the weekend. Would you be interested in running the Ragnar Relay? We've got a few open spots on the team.
How many miles is it?
So it's 3 different legs of between 2 and, but I didn't have a pen. We're gonna do some real life receipt tracking here. So we just had our meal. So like I mentioned, the 3 things that are on the receipt that you need are the place and the amount and the date right there. Boom, 10/6. So now we're gonna write down, we're out there discussing next week's content. Boom. Take my phone out. And that's it. About to call a client. Whenever we get a new prospect, we always like to get a copy of their tax return, look it over, see if there are any changes that we would suggest making that would save them some money. In this case, we've got a client that probably just 2 or 3 tax tips save them roughly $10,000 to $12,000. So I'm going to go over that right now with them. I think there's a difference between, and this is actually the same answer whether I'm talking to you as a potential client and I'm talking to you as an M1 brother, because I tell my clients the same answer, and it's just that whatever the truth is, and that is being intimate with your numbers and actually plugging your transactions in are 2 totally different things. And you don't have to plug your transaction, be the one plugging those numbers in. And I would argue that that's a horrible use of your time, especially for someone who's going to have a $1 million business next year. Plugging in books is not a good use of your time. Now, I will say it's important to know your numbers and know what you're spending, but that's a separate thing from doing your books yourself. Or if you've got good numbers through September, we can get you up and rolling, and then probably have a call in maybe a week and a half, and do a call around the second, right at the start of the second half of the month, and then kind of do a mid-month call. It really kind of depends on when you want to have that call. But we could do a mid-month call for this one, and then maybe right after the first of the month call in November, and then start that cadence of right after the first of the month having the calls. Okay, so let me get you that corporation checklist, and then get that signed, and then we'll get going. Thanks. Yep, talk to you soon. Bye. All right, so that was a new business call. He had a lot of good questions, so was just kind of answering those, figuring out a way that he's probably gonna, instead of having a rough ballpark $150,000 tax bill, going to have maybe a $40,000 tax bill. So that's when it's fun.
The tide pulls me in, but it takes slow. Here's to the nights we let go, and I'm hoping that they figure out it's all about the scenery along the route. No fears and no problems. These moments are so kind, so kind.